Okay, hello everybody and welcome to our first processing tutorial. I know that you have been working on hello processing, wonderful tutorials, and very interactive. I think that you have learned the basics of how processing works. We understand that it is a drawing board, I would say a dynamic drawing board, so you can create your animations and do a bunch of stuff. So for our purposes, for our classroom, I'm really interested in learning about processing and also integrating it with other like hardware like Arduino or Raspberry Pi, and try to combine the three things that we have done during the year in our course. So really fast, I am going to show you a review of what we've done until now. So let's start with the two methods that we must have for processing. The two major methods, or the ones that we should always have in our programs, which is the void setup and of course the void draw. These two methods are going to be the ones where we're going to write all of our code, and sometimes we're going to have some other helper methods, but for now we're going to draw everything there. Now, processing is a program developed for artists, even though engineers use it a lot, and the programming language is Java. So it's very simple to use, and all the libraries and classes really help you to develop GUIs in a very fast way and very friendly. And if you're an artist, you can actually make things really beautiful and artistic. Okay, so that's the major component of processing. I really like it because it has a very similar interface as the Arduino one, and we are used to that, okay? So in our void setup, the first thing I'm going to do is write down the size of my screen, or the size of the window where I'm going to draw everything that I want, okay? Then I'm going to write, now create a background color for that window, and if I type in 0, well, actually, I'm going to get a black screen, okay? And if I type 255, then I'm going to have a white screen, okay? So we're going to have numbers between 0 and 255. Now, on the RGB scale, remember that RGB, you can go to any color picker. It's one that I like, and Google shows it right away. So if you choose any color that you want for your design or for your screen, you can get the RGB. So right here, I'm going to just copy this and paste it on my background. And I have an RGB color which I like. Okay, so I have this color as the background, and of course, we can actually create the frame rate for our system or for our drawing. The frame rate is the amount of frames per second that you wish that the program loops, okay? So in our case, I'm just going to type in 30 frame rates per second, 30 frames per second, and that way we'll probably don't even notice it, okay? So let's go to our void draw method. Now the void draw, it's an infinite loop method. This is going to be a loop that is going to iterate every 30 times per second, okay? Because we said that we set up the frame rate. Okay, so I'm going to start very simple, just reviewing what is a rectangle, how to create a rectangle. So the rectangle has 4 parameters, and these 4 parameters are x, y, length, width, and height, okay? So I am going to start at, let's say, position 200 by 200, and I'm going to make my rectangle 150 by 100, okay? We're talking here about pixels, okay? We're not talking about centimeters, millimeters, or anything like that. We're talking about pixels on the screen, okay? So right now, I should get a white rectangle, which is 150 width by 100 height of white. Now, if I want to change the color of this white rectangle, I just need to fill it with another type of color. And in that case, I'm going to say, let's choose another color. Okay, let's see. This one looks pretty nice. Okay. And if I put the fill right before the rectangle, what I'm telling the program is, okay, I want you to draw a rectangle with this color, okay, with this color background. Okay, so in this case I have a blue rectangle. Very simple, right? Okay, now I can also do several rectangles, okay, and then just change the position every time, okay? So I'm going to just copy, and I'm going to paste some other rectangles here, okay? Just the same. So they're all going to be blue because I haven't changed the fill color. They're all going to be blue, okay? Right after this one, they're all going to be blue. And I'm going to change probably the X. Change the X, and I'm going to have all the rectangles there. Now, as you can see, these rectangles are overlapping, okay? And they're overlapping because I'm only moving the rectangle 100 spaces to the right, where my rectangle is 150, okay? If I don't want them to overlap, I probably want to change this by 200 every time. Okay, in this case, I cannot go further than my actual size of the window. So I create one at 200x, 400x, and 600x. Remember, x, y, width, and height. Okay? So here I'll have my 3 rectangles. Okay, all blue. I'm going to erase this. I'm going to continue with my rectangle. Now, something very, very interesting about processing is that it works like a stop motion. And stop motion is just placing one drawing on top of the other until you get an animation. Now, this animation is very fast, so it looks like a video. And we will look at an example right now. In order to understand or make a shape animate or interact in your screen, we need something called variables, okay? So we are going to create some variables for our program. And in this case, I'm going to create an integer variable, and that's why I write the word int x position, okay? And I'm going to make another int y position, and this is going to change constantly. So I'm going to start my x position at 0, and I'm going to start my y position at 0. Okay? So I have 2 variables. Int x position means that the variable x position can only hold integer numbers, the same as the y position. So we just created 2 variables. The good thing about variables is that their information can change during the program, and that's the idea, that the variables, when you make a reference to the variable, you're making a reference to some information that is held. So every time you can modify the variable and it will change. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change my rect x position for the variable that I just created. Okay, and I'm going to change my y position for the variable that I just created. Okay. Now, if I draw this, I'm going to start at 0, 0, because x position and y position started at 0, and I'm going to draw the rectangle that I showed you in the first place. right? Starting at 0, 0, top left, and I made the rectangle, okay? Now what happens if I move or I change x position and y position automatically? Well, I'm going to say that x position is going to be equal to whatever was on x position plus 5, okay? And y position is also going to be whatever was on y position plus 5, okay? What do you think it will happen? Well, every time that the loop starts again, x position is going to be added 5 and y position 5. So it's going to look like an animation. It's going to be very fast though. You see, we have all the rectangles. Now x position and y position are already more than 600 pixels. So it's continuing infinitely until we stop the program. Okay? So that's what we just created. But we're creating numerous rectangles, one on top of the other. What if we want only to show a rectangle floating across our screen? Well, we have to update the background with the same color that we used before, with the same color background. And that way, we can just update the background every time that we create a new rectangle. Okay? So in this case, I'm drawing a rectangle, changing its position, updating the background, and drawing the rectangle, the new rectangle again. So this is how it's going to look like. Now the rectangle is just flying across the screen. Okay? Now this is all for today's tutorial. Your activity or your assignment is to create multiple rectangles flying across the screen in many different ways. Okay, so your assignment is gonna look something like this. You can add more rectangles though, or ellipse, or circles if you like. So this is kind of like what I need you to work. This animation just throws 3 rectangles around the screen. So as a tip, you will need 2 variables for each rectangle. Remember that a variable can be called anything. X position, y position, or x position 2, y position 2, x position 3, y position 3, for as many rectangles. Remember that the variables are going to change for each rectangle, so you are going to need different names for your variables, okay? So let's see if you're able to do this assignment, okay? And please upload it to our educational platform. Thanks a lot and good luck.